energetic, charismatic kind of player, a guy that would look to take over a game, but a real team type player. A lot of abilities, really quick and always moving the ball up court, pushing the action.
Oh man, one of the hardest workers I done came across. Like man, fast, hard-working guard, picks you up 94 feet. Somebody that really continues to push the pace constantly. Insane mid-range. Yeah, just a really fast, pesky guard.
Good clutch player, and he was like, out of my whole career, probably like the hardest working player I ever played with. So
impactful, him and how I changed coaching, probably number one, because you start from zero where you think one thing, and he changed the way we coached, how we played a little bit, how we pressed. And I'm talking, we're playing Kyrie Irving, we're playing people at a high level at Torrey Pines, and he sometimes is the best guy on the floor.
Inside Hot Sports.
The Newark Memorial basketball team is dominating the Mission Valley League with 67 consecutive league wins. One player is standing out above the rest, even though he's the shortest on the team. At 5'6".
So, a lot of people, they don't know about your story before Newark Memorial, you know what I'm saying? Because you were homeschooled. And can you kind of give me a little bit of background of how did you prep and what kind of training you went through to kind of prepare to do what you did at Newark Memorial?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. I had probably, I would say, a few different phases of preparation, for basketball and eventually, evolving into the player that I became. The first training that I had was, Forest Park training.
Yeah.
So that was basically, with my older brothers. I was always the youngest and just playing with the older guys, very competitive Forest Park days. Nobody wanted to lose. So whether you're young or whether you're old, everybody treats you the same. So I think, playing at Forest Park in those initial days, it kind of toughened me up. It put me to a level where I was able to surpass my peers because I was playing with a lot better competition and older guys. And
a lot of fights there.
A lot of fights, lots of fights, lots of bloody days. And, the thing that I liked about the whole time was that, my brothers always made sure nobody would go easy on me. If anybody was coming in trying to play easy, which didn't happen often, but when it did, my brothers would let them know, you don't go easy on this guy. We're planning something for this guy, so you need to make sure.
This is our project right now.
This is our project. You play him tough, play him hard, because there's a future for him somewhere. So Forest Park, initial days, with my brothers, especially Abdullah. Some days, he would go extra hard. We would play 1-on-1. Usually it would end up with me in tears, crying. We would do a lot of crazy drills, diving, stuff like that. Some days it would be like raining, storming. He would be like, you ain't going home till you make 10 free throws, We're out there getting all wet and stuff. And, he wants me to finish 10 free throws. So stuff like that, I think initially it just, built a lot of toughness in me, having to compete and go against, guys like that.
When you saw like the results
Yeah.
from that training, were you the type of person that said like, okay, now I want some more, I want to put in more work, just because you saw some of the results?
Like I remember at nighttime, sometimes we play at night, right, when the lights would get off and it would be kind of hard to see, and then I would tell him, you got to make 10 free throws in a row, and then it started raining, and he would be like, he would hit 7, and then I was like, let's go, because I'm getting all wet. He's like, no, I got to hit 3 more. I was like, man, come on, let's go. And he'd be like, no, I got to hit 3 more. And that's just his mentality. Like, he didn't matter if it was sunny, windy, rainy, or whatever I told him to do, he got it done.
Yeah, definitely. I think it toughened me up in the sense that, like, I was able to go through a lot of pain. I was able to go through, like, the pain or difficulties of workouts and stuff like that, when other people might, like, feel tired or throw in the towel and it's too painful. For me, it was like, oh, this is just another day at Forest Park, it's all good. Let's just keep going, so it definitely helped me out. I think the second stage was with my second coach, Coach Willie. He was my AAU coach. He helped me out a lot with, his son and a lot of guys that he trained. They eventually played D1 college basketball. So like he was really good. He knew what he was doing. We did a lot of like uphill running, Coyote Hills, bleachers, stuff like that. So he put us on a really good program too.
What was that? When did you start playing in Oakland? Was that kind of like, what did you start playing AAU and
Yeah.
Because Abdullah had told me that when you went there, it was kind of like he thought they were like grown men.
So
Yeah.
I found an AAU team in Oakland. So I was like, I kept the same mentality. Like I need tougher, stronger, bigger guys that he needs to be playing against so he can be better and better each time. So I found the team in Oakland. We had signed up. The first time we came to the practice, I was kind of shocked because, there was these huge guys. They were like 6'5", 6'6", they had tattoos, dreads, you know what I mean? I'm thinking these guys are like college players. When I walk in, they're like, oh yeah, this guy's 15, this guy's 16, and my brother at that time was 12. So I was like, okay, this is perfect. He can play with these guys. He was going to be on the 13 and 14 team. But he had opportunity to play with these guys too. So, he was playing with big guys. I'm talking about like 6'3", 6'4", tatted up, muscular, physical, everything you can think of playing against a tough player. You know what I mean?
So we got to the point where Abdullah, he's kind of always been like my coach / agent,
Yeah.
So I guess he saw that Oakland basketball's got a lot of people that are coming out, and they're being very successful in basketball. They got a lot of great programs. So Abdullah was like, let's get you in over there. So we went, I joined this team. It was called the Oakland Folks. And like the first day that I came in the gym, it pretty much looked like a college workout, I was the smallest guy in there, and like a whole bunch of big guys, they're dunking, and it was a really good atmosphere, competitive. And I think that also just upped my game to another level, just playing at that level of competition where people are like, they're all about basketball. That's all they have. That's all they care about. I think that helped me out a lot too. Yeah.
Okay. And then tell me about how did you get introduced to Ashmore, or, how did you guys make that decision to go to Newark Memorial, and why Newark?
So as most people know, Newark has always been, or was, especially at that time, Newark was a powerhouse. We had like an undefeated record in the MVAL. I don't know how many years it was, but it was a long time where MVAL, we didn't lose a single game. And I used to watch my brother play. He played at American High. So I would see, especially Newark versus American, those were the best games, packed house. And, it's pretty evident. You could see Newark always had great talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, if I play at any of these other schools, yeah, I might get, a lot of playing time. I might jump straight to varsity without any issues, with a lot of ease. But at the end of the day, it's like, how far are you going to go?
So I took him to all of the schools. I took him to American. I took him to Irvington. I took him to Kennedy. I took him to Logan. I took him to Newark, to all their open gyms. When he was in 8th grade, going to transition to 9th grade, I took him to all these open gyms just to see, if he can hang or where he was at. At every single open gym, Rahula was like the top player. Like there was no doubt about it.
So that was kind of what prompted my decision. I was like, I want to play against top competition in the whole country, in the whole nation. So Newark was the place that I saw was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So now there's that famous phone call that Abdullah always talks about with him and Ashmore,
Yeah.
and you didn't really know about that,
Yeah,
right? About, how he was a little doubtful.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that, the background of that story?
Well, to be honest, I kind of just found out about that recently,
Okay.
or like later on. I had no idea that, my brother Abdullah was in contact with Coach Ashmore about stuff like that.
After we went to open gym, he called me on the ride back home. He called me, he said, tomorrow we got a summer league game in Oakland at McClymonds High School. So he's like, come bring your brother in, we can go ahead and see how he does. So I let my brother know, like, hey, the coach said come by tomorrow. They got a summer league game at McClymonds High School in Oakland. It's a good time to show your skills, see how you're doing. And he's like, all right, let's go, let's do this. So when we were talking on the phone, he's like, I really like your brother. He's a strong player. He got a lot of skills. His ball handling is good. His IQ is very good for just being in 8th grade. I can tell that he's trained hard. But he said there's one thing that kind of makes me feel a little iffy about the situation.
I thought he was too small, and I didn't think he was. He didn't pass the eye test, so I thought he wasn't good enough to be. I knew he was going to be good, but I don't think he could play varsity as a freshman. And I would conversate with his brother, who was also a pretty good player and could shoot it a little bit. And he was like, "Coach, you got to give him a shot."
So then he said, "Come by tomorrow." That's exactly what he said. So we came back the next day. We drove to Oakland. We went to McClymonds. So as soon as we walk in the gym, and I just said, in 7th and 8th grade, Rahula was playing AAU ball in Oakland. When he walked in the gym, it was all of his old friends. And it was like, "Oh, Rahula, man, what's going on?" They hadn't seen him in like a year, Like, "Oh, Rahula, what's going on?" You know what I mean? All these big guys, like I said, dreads, tats, you know what I mean? And everybody on the Newark Memorial team's like looking around like, how do these guys know Rahula? You know what I mean? So right then and there, like I already knew, like, oh, Rahula's already comfortable. A normal kid. I'm thinking Ashmore, what he wanted to do was try to see how tough my brother was, because we're gonna play against a team from Oakland. If he can actually hang. But little did he know is Rahula already been there and done that. So the game started and Rahula was just going zipping through everybody. You know what I mean? Because he was small, he was able to dribble through. He had like 7 or 8 steals. He had like 20 points. He had a lot of nice passes, nice assists, and he just did a really good job. And so I knew right then and there, like Coach Ashmore knew, like, oh yeah, this guy got some game.
Well, as he played, I was like, man, he can do some things other people can't do.
When we got home, he called me on my cell phone. He's like, first of all, Abdullah, I really want to apologize, for making the comment about your brother being small. She's like, I'm just letting you know, like, I have a lot of, moms and dads and brothers and sisters. They say, my son or my brother's raw, and, I go and see them and they're just not up to par. He's like, I just want to apologize firsthand. But he's like, man, your brother is amazing. He's like, I really think he's one of my top 5 players. He's like, let's go ahead and get the intra-district transfer signed. He's like, I'll get it ready tomorrow. Come pick it up tomorrow morning. He's like, I really want this guy. He's like, he's something special.
So for me, like all the background stuff, what they were talking about, I was completely unaware. He actually never even told me during that time. I only found out like later on. Yeah.
So was there a game where, you know what I'm saying, where you kind of went off, or you did something where Ashmore finally kind of, was like, all right, this guy's the real deal,
Yeah, so we had, I think it was Summer League, or it was like our first game that we had, or our first tournament that we had. And the whole tournament was going pretty good, but no game was really there where I was like making a statement, I was doing good, I was getting minutes, I was scoring, playing defense, doing good stuff. But I think we played a game versus San Leandro, and it went down to the wire. It was a very close game. Both teams, our team and San Leandro, had top level guys, ranked guys. They had, I think, Jared Cunningham, who was a future NBA player, and their point guard was like really good. He was ranked nationally and stuff like that. So we had a really nitty gritty game. It was down to the wire, and then I think it was probably like a minute and a half or so left in the game, and they had their best guy, the point guard. He was bringing the ball up. And, our best guy on the team, Chris Jones, was guarding him the whole game. And I forgot what happened. It might have been a screen or something like that. But I ended up on him. I was guarding him and he's bringing the ball up. And again, it was like a minute and a half left. And the game was like within 2. And I'm just guarding this guy. And it was like, for everybody in the stands, it was like a clear mismatch. Because this guy's like 6'3". He's committed to a D1 university already. And then here you have this guy, I think that time I was probably in 8th grade coming to 9th grade because it was a summer league game. Yeah. And then, here you have me, 5'6", guarding this guy up. And he was doing really good the whole game. But, I think it was pretty much like that mentality, the mindset of like never backing down. I don't care who's in front of me. I'm always going to play my hardest and show this guy what's up. So I was D'ing him up, And I remember like it clicked in my mind. I was like, it's a 2-point game. You know, how nice is it going to be if I get the steal, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, this guy is bigger. He's not as quick as me. And I remember he tried to cross over or something. And I was like, I'm just going to go for it. I went for the steal, got the steal, went down for a layup. And like, you know, you can hear and see what's happening on the sideline.
Yeah.
And I remember Coach Ashmore was like, he was like so excited and, you know, happy for that layup. He was hyped up. Yeah, he was really hyped. And then I think it was like maybe the next play or the play after, I got on him again and we were playing defense and I got another steal coast to coast. And, you know, they called timeout. I think we got the lead. And like Coach Ashmore was just going crazy.
We played a preseason exhibition game and we were playing against a really good team, and they had a player that already had signed with the University of Hawaii. And we're trapping him all game, and he's still scoring, and they're still winning, and we're down 6 with about 1:20. And Rahula's playing. He's playing pretty good, but everyone's just doing okay, right? We take our press off, and we just basically tell him one-on-one to guard him, because every time we trap, the guy throws it out, and they get a layup. Rahula picks him twice in a row for layups, just straight out in the open 94 away. And this guy's a great player, you know, and Rahula just basically, that dude was scared. He threw the ball to someone else to bring the ball up because of that. So I was like, nah, he's ready to go.
I remember there was another point in the game where, you know, I was doing pretty good. I was scoring, and then I caught the ball on the baseline or like on the side, right near the bench. And then I remember I caught the ball and I could hear Coach Ashmore, and he's like, take him baseline, take him baseline. So like when I heard Coach Ashmore is like, you know, he's happy for me to drive and score and take the guy to the basket on a really good team. The defender that was guarding me was also a really good player.
I'd have let him do those things, right? I mean, my thing was getting down all the way to the rim, play off 2 and try to finish over people. But shoot from the mid-range, that might be his best thing. That one dribble pull-up is really hard to guard, and he's shooting 90%.
Just hearing him like support me like that, that's when it kind of clicked. Like, you know, Coach Ashmore likes you. He wants you. He wants you part of this program.
That green light.
Yeah.
That's good. Cool, man. So played 2 years, freshman, sophomore year. In just those 2 years, were there any like college lookouts? Anybody, you know, did Ashmore tell you, you know, so-and-so's pursuing you or asking about you? Did you hear about any schools? I was just curious, you know.
You know, one thing with Coach Ashmore, I think to this day, if there was, I might not even know about it till now, because, you know, Coach Ashmore, he's very like wise in the way that he disciplines his players and kind of keeps the hungry mindset and the hungry mentality. Like I remember a lot of times he would talk to me privately and tell me like, you specifically, if you want to make it, you got a lot of weight on your shoulders. You got a bigger burden than other people if you want to make it, you know? And I think because of that, he would always keep us hungry. You know, there were a few colleges that were looking, you know, and to be honest, they were like lower level Division I schools.
Sophomore at the time, so.
And I was just a freshman and sophomore. So, you know, I think had I played another 2 years, the offers would have probably came in a lot more. But there were some low-level schools that did show their interest. I think one was like Phoenix or Utah, something like that. I can't even remember, to be honest.
Yeah.
It wasn't really something that I took too seriously at the time.
Yeah, it's good, man. So going back to those 2 years, man, it's, you know, a lot of people kind of wanted to know, like, you know, what made you leave? You know, like not everyone knows the full story. You know, it was like, I know it has something to do with pursuing your religious studies, but what made that decision where you said, okay, you know, I'm going to hang it up and do this instead?
Yeah.
Can you go over that for me, please?
So during my sophomore year, I feel like I had like, if you want to call it a spiritual awakening, you know, I felt an urge and a higher calling to basically just connect with my faith and the purpose of my life. At that point in time, I had already memorized the Quran, you know, Islam's holy book. And I just felt like, why not take the next step of furthering that and getting deeper into it and understanding the message, you know, of this book that I've already committed to memory. So sophomore year, I was like in a huge dilemma within myself. I'm the type of person, whatever I like to do, whatever I do and get myself involved with, I want to go in all the way. You know, I don't like to have, you know, half foot here and half foot here. I'm like, if I'm going to get into something, I'm going to give it my all and pursue it with all of my energy and ability. So I was in this dilemma, in this confusion. Should I pursue my religious studies or should I fully commit myself for basketball? And when I got into this phase, it was really difficult upon me because my whole life, my goal and my dream and my objective has always been basketball. You know, every day, every summer, like putting in countless hours. Now I'm like, wait a minute. I kind of feel like I want to do this instead. I want to do my religious studies. So for me, it was kind of like a confusing state. I think a lot of it had to do with like growing up also and just kind of seeing my future, what I want to pan out for myself and what I want to devote myself to. Something bigger than basketball, exactly. So during that time, I always would just debate with myself, like, what do you want to do? Which path do you want to take? So during that time, I used to pray a lot, you know, and we call it the istikhara prayer, which basically means you're asking God for guidance in a decision that you're trying to do. So I was doing that prayer a lot, asking God for guidance on which path I should take. Of course, looking in hindsight, looking back, it would have been possible to do both, you know, but like I said, at that time, I was like, you know, take it all or leave it all. It's got to be one or the two. I'm going to devote myself for one of these. So I started this prayer, and, you know, the first thing that happened was I saw this, you know, powerful and amazing dream. And it was so vivid, it was so real, and I took it as a sign. What happened in the dream was, you know, I was basically in Mecca, which is Islam's holiest site, where the Kaaba is, and, you know, thousands of pilgrims come every year to this place, and people make it their life's mission to at least visit there once. So in the dream, I was here and I see, you know, thousands of people. They're just like swarming me, surrounding me, and they're like, congratulations, congratulations. And I'm like, what did I do? What did I accomplish? Why are you guys all congratulating me? So they go, don't you know, you've been selected, you know, to lead the Maghrib prayer in front of the Kaaba, you know, and this is Islam's holiest site. And I was like, oh my God, this is like a life's dream come true. To be able to lead the prayer there is like such a great honor. You can never even imagine, you know, such an honorable moment. So in the dream, I'm like, okay, let me go back to the hotel and get ready because I got to lead the prayer now. On the way back to the hotel, there's a basketball court, you know, and I see, you know, 5-on-5 guys are playing. It's competitive. It looks really nice. And, you know, crazy things happen in your dream, right? So I had a pair of shoes ready right there. So I tied up my shoes and I'm like, let's go, let's play some ball. And I'm in the middle of this competitive game when all of a sudden I hear the adhan, I hear the call for prayer. And, you know, my heart just sunk and I was like, oh my God, that's the prayer that I was supposed to lead. And pretty much in the dream, I missed that opportunity of leading the Maghrib prayer at Islam's holiest site in Mecca in front of the Kaaba. I missed that opportunity because basketball distracted me in the dream, you know?
Wow.
And then, you know, when I woke up and I was like thinking about this dream, I was like, man, maybe there's a lot of goodness that's out there that I could pursue, but basketball is the obstacle that's stopping me from achieving all these great things that are out there. So once I had this dream, I still was so attached that I was like, nah, maybe it means something else. Let me just keep doing this, keep playing, and maybe, you know, Allah's gonna show me a clearer sign. God is gonna show me a clearer sign. So eventually, you know, I kept playing, I kept going at it, and it was summer of my sophomore year where I had my injury. I tore my ACL. And when that happened, it was also like amazing how it happened. I was on a fast break. Literally, it was a wide open layup, you know, like nobody else was there. And I was in the middle of an AAU game. It was not like a hard drive or like falling or a cut or anything like that, like a freak injury. It was literally a wide open layup. But on the way up, you know, I felt that pain in my knee. I fell down. I tried to get back up, but I couldn't get up. And, you know, once that happened, when I couldn't get up, the first thing in my mind was like ACL, you know? And like what this, I could still remember so vividly when it happened, like this whole scene. Had I injured my ACL before that, I would have been like devastated. Like, man, my ACL, that's the worst injury for a basketball player. But because I was going through this, you know, what I call it as a spiritual awakening or a spiritual calling, and I was thinking about my future and what I should do, when this injury happened, I felt like it was kind of like God sat me down so that I could have a clear understanding of what I need to do.
Yeah.
So like I was so content and I was so like kind of relieved.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have to make the decision. God made the decision for me. You know, that's kind of what I felt. So I remember like when I got picked up and I was sat on the bench and even like driving home, even though I had a torn ACL, I was just like so relieved. Like my decision is done now. Now I know what I got to do. I know what I'm going to pursue. So yeah, that was kind of the story of what happened with my injury. And that's what led me to making my decision. And then I still remember when I had to make the phone call to Coach Ashmore, you know, I remember like probably 2 hours before that call, I'm like rehearsing what I'm going to tell him. You know, I'm rehearsing what I'm going to say and how I'm going to break the news to him. But like, he was very supportive. He had no reservations at all. And he was just like, you know, you're a mature guy. And if that's what you want to pursue, you know, I'm all for it. And I'm supporting you and I'm with you.
He was bigger than basketball at that time. So selfishly, I wanted him to play. Ironically, him leaving that year, we went to the state, won 30 games. People lesser than him took on his role, but it was dispersed to more people. Who knows? Maybe we would have, you know, been nationally ranked and won that state game with him. But any guy that can memorize the Quran before high school, where he's teaching me certain things, stopping in the middle of practice to pray. Hey, coach, I got to go over here. He's committed to something bigger than me. So in basketball, even though that's my life and it's huge, he kind of changed where his focus was, basketball, that's some of the ingredients to who he is, but he's not defined by basketball. He's defined by something bigger.
And I think it was just, you know, looking back at it, it was just kind of interesting to see when I made this decision, I didn't hear one person like try and talk me out of it, you know, not from my coaches to my teammates, to my family, to my parents. Nobody really said anything. And everybody was kind of like, and I think a lot what it had to do with was my level of maturity at that time. Even though I was 16, but I think like my whole lifestyle and the way I would do things, people understood like, this guy is serious about what he does, and like when he wants to do something, he's serious about it. So
they weren't going to change your mind anyway,
they knew I wasn't going to change my mind. And like, if this is what this guy wants to do, let's just leave him and let him do what he wants to do, you know? So yeah, it was kind of like, you know, sometimes I could tell people wanted me to play, you know, play my junior and senior year.
People did. I did. Everybody.
Yeah. But it was kind of like anytime the topic would come up, there was like a weird silence. Like people were kind of like, don't tell him anything, you know, this guy's got his mind made up. Don't talk him out of it.
That's beautiful, man.
My life, my religion is the most important thing to me. You know, I set my priorities straight. The first thing is my religion above everything else. Then comes my studies, and then third is basketball.
Man, so like as the years go by, like, do you ever kind of think and be like, is there any kind of like regret, or, you know, obviously there's that what if, but do you ever look back and kind of just regret it at all, or no, you're very content with that decision?
You know, when I look back, I 100% have zero regrets on my decision, you know, and I'm very content with the decision I made. When I look back at my 16-year-old self at that young age, the decisions that I made, you know, of course, with God's help and his, you know, assistance towards me, I look back at my 16-year-old self and I'm actually pretty like surprised and amazed. Like a 16-year-old, you know, me was so mature to make these decisions. And like, you know, when I see the average 16-year-old today, I think decisions are more based on like fun and games and what's pleasing to the self, instead of more like what is more beneficial for life and for the next life. So when I look back at my 16-year-old self, I'm like, wow, I was pretty mature to take these decisions, you know? And when I see what the outcome was, you know, what the outcome is today, you know, zero regrets. I wouldn't change my decision if I were to go back in time. I think everything played out, you know, perfectly, alhamdulillah. And, you know, let's just say if basketball really did work for me, you know, whether it's, you know, NBA or whether it's professional, you know, making a lot of money and having a lot of fame, you know, money and fame, when I compare it to what I have today and what I'm doing today in the form of like influencing people's lives and being a pillar for them, helping people in difficult times, you know, helping people with life decisions, mentoring youth, which is a very important time in life. I don't see a comparison. You know, I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it back in.
It's funny how you mentioned the younger generation.
Yeah.
You know, as you know, we both have played with them, against them, and we've trained. You know, we trained them. What is the best advice you could give them? You know, it's you know, because they kind of look up to you, and when you talk to them, you know, the ones that are, you know, whether they're serious or not, or they're just like, how do you kind of influence them to, you know, if they want to take basketball serious?
The biggest thing that I see lacking, you know, and I think everybody, first of all, has different experiences with who they've interacted with and who they have met. But for me personally, I see a lack of, you know, hard work and devotion and dedication and willingness to put yourself through pain and uncomfortable situations. You know,
but we do see a lot of
talking
a lot of
from
them. Yeah, you know what I mean? They love to talk.
I think a lot of it, you know, it also has to do with how social media became, you know, how it blew up today.
Yeah.
In the sense that like every kid nowadays, like from 6th grade, 7th grade, they already got their own mixtape. They got their own YouTube channel. You know, for us, it was like, if you want recognition, you got to work really hard for it to catch the eyes of people, you know? So
you got to show it on the court.
You got to show it on the court. So I think, you know, there's like a sense of entitlement, whereas you got to just let your game do the talking, you know? And I think for me, this has always been a policy, like, don't talk on the court, let your game do the talking. And, you know, I think to this day, anybody that I have played against, whenever the game is over, you know, they can testify to this fact that even if I didn't win, I probably gave them a really hard time on the court. And I think, you know, getting that respect from people, it shows on the court, it shows through your hard work. Coaches also look at this, they see this from you. It's not about your mouthpiece, how much you talk and, you know, show off towards other people.
It's been 14 years later, and, you know, we know you finished your studies. What are you doing right now as far as serving your community?
So currently, you know, I serve the community through teaching, you know, Islamic sciences, mentorship for the youth, and, you know, just being a pillar that people can rely on. And somebody needs guidance, they want someone to talk to, you know, I'm the one usually who's there for people, you know. Pretty much right now, my teaching schedule, you know, what I do currently, I teach all age levels. So that ranges from students who are in elementary school to high school, and then college and beyond as well. So mainly I just do like workshops. We have a weekly lecture series that takes place at the local masjid. And on, you know, besides that, just mentoring the youth and staying connected with them.
Yeah. And you had mentioned, I think maybe your dad mentioned it to me, there was a project that you guys did in Afghanistan. What was that about?
Yeah, so we had a project we did in Afghanistan, helping out with charity, you know, so for a lot of the underprivileged people there, we had distributions in various provinces. And we also managed to establish an orphanage for children who have been left as orphans. That project is ongoing. I've managed to establish my own nonprofit organization. It's called As-Siddiq Institute. Through this, we do a lot of teaching and youth activities. So if anyone wants to, help out with that, the link will be provided.
Cool, man. All right, man. Last question. So can you still hoop?
Can I still hoop? I think that question you gotta ask. You gotta ask the guys on the court, man.
You know you don't let me in.
Hey everybody, we're here with Raula Bayanze. He's our season MVP for Slam season number 5. Congratulations, sir.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Thank you. I think there's still a little something left in the tank.
That's good, mashallah. Any last words of advice or anything you want to kind of say?
Yeah, my advice for athletes in general, young guys who are coming up and want to succeed, I think 2 things are very important to have. Number 1, you got to be hungry. Number 2, you got to stay humble. So these are 2 things any athlete's got to have, because number 1, if you're not hungry, you think you've already made it.
Yeah.
So you're not going to have a mentality to work hard.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that you're always hungry. You're looking to improve and get better. But at the same time, you got to stay humble, because, if you want to get better and you want to improve, but you're arrogant, coaches don't like to see that, because then they're not able to coach you. You're not able to improve. They can never, correct your game and fine tune your game. So, staying hungry, staying humble, these are the most 2 important things. And thirdly, I would add, every athlete should keep this in mind, that at the end of the day, life is going to take us beyond athletics. It's going to take us beyond basketball. Whether that means, a young guy, let's say you end up not making it where you're trying to make it to. You don't get that college scholarship. You don't end up in the NBA or playing professional ball. Now, what do you do with your life after that? So I feel like a lot of athletes, and especially basketball players, if you are basically like basketball is your whole life, and there's nothing else in your life, when basketball doesn't work, does that mean you're not going to have a life?
Yeah.
There has to be something above and beyond basketball. And I think for anything in life, whether you're an athlete, whether it's your school, your education, there's got to always be a higher purpose, and when you have a higher purpose, it makes your life worth living, and these are the advices that I have.
Well said, brother.
Yeah.